I'm Kiera with the Student Music Network, and I'm here with Jamie Lenman.
Hi there.
Hello. So Lena Don't Leave Me, release October 4th. Can you talk to me a little bit about what it's all about?
Yeah, wow, October 4th seems like a lifetime ago. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, the clue is in the title. It's about my wife, Lena, and how I hope she won't leave me. No, I'm being an idiot. But what it sort of is, yeah, it is. It's about what it means when people say, you get married and you say, oh, my other half. You know, that's like just a phrase that people sort of toss out without really thinking about it. But that's really how I feel about my wife and how she feels about me is that, we're two halves of a whole. We used to be separate people before we knew each other, and then we've sort of grown into this one person. And how that's great, but it's also a bit weird because if you're talking to someone, and especially if they give you a compliment like, hey, that's a funny joke, or I like your song, it sort of feels like the other person deserves half that compliment. And in a way, you feel like you're cheating people if they're hanging out with just you. I'm always just thinking, this is cool, but it'd be much better if she was here, because she's the other half of me. She makes everything so much better, and she feels the same way about me. So it's a funny way you sort of, in order to completely give your life to someone, when you fall in love and or get married or whatever, that really does mean surrendering half of yourself in a way that means you're never fully complete without them. I guess that's what we want. That's what I wanted anyway, if you're a romantic like I am.
So you're each other's cheerleader, I guess, and that sort of comes across
Well, that too. Yeah,
in the song.
for sure.
Nice. Yeah. And it's much more of a lighter sort of song than some of your other works on King of Clubs and stuff like that. Was this
Yeah.
sort of genre expansion, was it planned? Did you want to do something more mellow, or did it just come sort of naturally to you?
Well, it was sort of both. I mean, writing mellower songs comes naturally to me, just as naturally as writing the super heavy stuff comes to me. And I might write one of each in the same day, um, and not really think too much of it. The planning comes when you have to decide when to put it out, when you're going to record it, when you're going to put it out. I couldn't have put like Lena Don't Leave Me on King of Clubs. It would have been complete nonsense. So I had to wait, even though I had it. I think I had it at that point. A lot of these songs have been hanging around for years and years and years, some of them maybe 20 years almost, waiting for the right record, waiting for the right project. So that's when the planning comes in. I never planned to write an aggressive song or plan to write a mellow song, but once I have written them, I then have to plan where to put them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect sense. So obviously with The Atheist coming out on November 25th, can we expect that similar sort of mellow vibe, or do you have a whole array of stuff thrown in there?
Well, this is a question. I always think I try to make records that are like one vibe, right? When I was with my band, we just put everything that we had on the new record, and as a result, the records were like, whoa, they went everywhere. And some people thought that was a plus, and some people thought that was a minus. And since the band, because I've had a lot more control in the band, you've got to split everything three ways: the money, the decisions, the sandwiches. And but now I'm a solo artist. I don't really answer to anyone, apart from possibly my label. And I've made a concerted effort since then to try and make records that are narrower in terms of vibe. Uh, well, maybe narrow, because narrower implies a negative, doesn't it? More consistent, should we say? Right. So what I try to do, yes, is within each project records, come up with a set of songs that sound of a piece. And that's what I think The Atheist sounds like, and that's what I thought King of Clubs sounded like, and that's what I thought Devolver sounded like, whatever. But all the reviews are like, this is nuts! All these songs are all over the place, and I'm like, man. So I worry less about it now. I've sort of given up. I think The Atheist sounds of a piece. Side A is very exuberant and positive. Side B gets a little bit more thoughtful and melancholy, but they're all sort of the same, guitar, drums, bass. No distortion, no shouting, big melodies. I think they're of a piece.
And what are some of the themes that you're exploring through your lyrics and through as the record progresses, I suppose?
Well, there's a bunch of stuff that, I mean, the two songs at the start and the beginning, This Is All There Is and War of Doubt, they both tackle the subject of atheism, which is of course the name of the record. But it's not, the whole record isn't really about atheism. There's other songs in there. Talk Hard is about standing up for yourself. And I guess Bad Friend is also a little bit about standing up for yourself. That's about toxic relationships, Bad Friends. And then Lena is about, you know, love and relationships. And something like This Town Will Never Let Us Go, it gets a bit more into socioeconomics. But all of these can be seen, if you wanted to see them, through the lens of atheism, by which I mean, if you have a religion or you have a deity, there's a tendency to offload a lot of responsibility onto that deity. Something good happens, it's because you didn't please the deity. Something bad happens because you did please the deity. And if you need help with the problems, a few prayers will help you out, you know what I mean? I don't have any of that. Atheists don't have any of that. And so all the problems that arise, you know, that I talk about in this record, they've happened independently of any deity that I don't pray to. And all the good stuff that's happened, you know, Lena, there must be more good stuff on the record. That also has happened without any prayers. Do you know what I mean? So on the one end, it's only really the bookends of the record, the first track and the last track, that deal with that directly. But everything else that happens in between happens without a God, you know? So I have no responsibility to any higher power. And I sort myself out, you know? And that's what
Good.
talk art is about, standing up for yourself. No one's going to do it for you. There's no
Yeah.
sky wizard gonna give you all your wishes. You got to do it yourself. I hope that's empowering.
Yeah, it's a great way to be. I was gonna say it sounds very personal to you, like you've really been able to have sort of autonomy over your life and realize that and not answer to anyone. And would you say that your personal life experiences are something that you're open about, obviously you're wanting to share with the world through your
Well,
music?
you have to be. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to be. I mean, having autonomy over your life is a great way of putting it. I'm gonna steal that and not give you credit. Um, but yeah, you sort of, if you, I mean, there's music. When I was growing up in the 90s, music, if you talk about someone like Nirvana and then Bush that came on to try and rip them off or whatever, and lots of the acts then, they were sort of, the lyrics were always like nonsense poems, sort of feeling collages, and it was all very opaque, and you were invited to draw your own meanings. Whereas as I grew up, I veered towards people that were much more direct about how they felt, much more honest and open and raw. Once you peel away all that artifice, all that obfuscating rubbish, it's some of the greatest lyrics ever. I always favor a more direct approach to say, this is how I'm feeling. And the deeper you go, the harder it gets. Some of these songs are very personal. Something like Bad Friend, for instance, it's from the point of view of the bad friend, even though the song, you're invited to think about the victim of this relationship. The song is written from the point of view of, should we say, the aggressor, the bad friend. Because, you know, as much as I've been in relationships where I have been controlled, perhaps without knowing it, I've also been in relationships where I've been controlling. You know, you realize, you look back and you think, oh man, I behaved pretty badly there. So, you know, we've all been the bad friend and we've all had the bad friend. And that takes a lot of guts, even though I say so myself, to admit to the ugly sides of your own personality and the ugly sides of your own behavior. I did a lot of that on King of Clubs, and then Bad Friend as well. That lingers over in The Atheist. You know, I'm not trying to paint myself in a beatific light at all, and that's not interesting to me either. I'm not interested, you know, in terms of the music that I make or even the illustrations that I draw. I never rub out the pencil lines. I leave the wonky notes in because I'm interested in honesty rather than a perfect artifice.
Very transparent.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, nice. And this will be your fourth solo album. What is, well, obviously bar shuffle and the live stuff.
You can never say. I count it as fifth. I count it as my fifth.
Okay.
Barring the live records.
We'll say fifth. My mistake. Do you have plans to tour following the release of this album?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're in the middle of a very small tour at the moment. I did 2 dates last week and did 2 dates next week in, I think it's St Albans and Hartford. I'm taking this week off for my birthday. I turn 40 tomorrow, actually.
Oh,
this is the last of this. Thanks very much. You say goodbye to this youthful skin. This is the last day of my 30s. Shit, I hadn't thought about that. I'm going to be an old man tomorrow. And then yes, in the new year. Well, first at Christmas time, we've got Len Mania in Manchester, which is huge. And then after that, yeah, well, I think we'll probably go on some kind of nationwide tour, springtime. I haven't really had time to think about that yet because I got, my birthday and then these 2 tour dates and then Len Manchester, which is huge. They sort of, I can't really see past that at the moment. But once Len Manchester is done, then I'll start thinking about, right, next year.
Sounds good. Sounds exciting.
There's a lot going on.
Do you prefer like typical tour setups and like bigger crowds like at Download and stuff like that, or would you want to have another go at sort of the more intimate setups like the one at St Pancras back in 2018?
Well, the thing is, if you're clever, you can make a huge crowd, like for instance, Download, feel intimate. Intimacy is not about the size of the venue or the number of people. It's about a feeling. And I flatter myself that when I do go to Download, when I went this year and when I went for Download Pilot the previous year, last year, it was still pretty intimate. There was, must have been a couple of thousand people in that tent. Maybe I'm exaggerating. It felt like a couple of thousand, let me tell you that. But, we were still communicating on a very one-on-one level. I have a song on one of my records that is about how even though, any number of people might have this record on their turntable and listen to it now, the message in the song is just for one person. It's for you, the listener. And that's the same in a crowd of people. I'm playing it to everyone, but I'm also playing to just you. And it's taken a long time to build up that skill, because it is a skill and it requires an amount of honesty as well, that I flatter myself, that I'm able to make even a big crowd seem intimate. I have sidestepped your question there, but I did it in a sort of a sneaky philosophical way that I hope you're able to appreciate. I hope you're not cross that I totally sidewinded you there.
No, I'm enjoying the philosophical nature of this interview, but I'm gonna have to knock that on the head for the last part. I'm gonna do a little quick fire round.
Down the line, yeah.
Okay, what's one artist that you're loving right now?
Frontiera. Their new record and their previous record is absolutely blowing my balls off. Yeah, Frontiera.
And what's your favorite song to perform out of all of yours?
My favorite song to perform out of all of mine? Oh, wow. Do you know what, at the moment, funnily enough, I've dug up a really old Reuben tune called Tonight My Wife Is Your Wife. And that is so much fun. Because it's easy, right? All my new stuff is like complex. You have to look at your guitar. Back in Reuben, just like wherever your finger lands on the fretboard is a song. And Tonight My Wife Is Your Wife is real fun. It's got a real groove and people love it. So that's really fun at the moment. I'm enjoying that, yeah.
What's your favorite gig that you've been to as a visitor?
My favorite gig that I've been to as a visitor, I think it was to see a band called Extravagatron at a pub in Southsea. And their singer was dressed as a Spartan from the movie Sparta. And I think their keyboard player was dressed as Tina Turner if she were a silver alien. And they were just completely insane. That might be my favorite gig of all time. Because I came to see the main band and they were on support. And they were just completely incredible. And we had them play a show with us later down the line. Much missed, Extravagatron, yeah.
And what's the favorite venue that you've ever performed at?
My favorite venue that I've ever performed at would have to be, do you know what, I'm gonna not upset other venues here. I have a tricky answer again for you. You got to get up pretty early to catch me. It's the Tumbledown Dick in Farnborough, which is now closed. So no one can feel slighted if I gave that answer. It's now a McDonald's. They closed it. The legend was always that the Tumbledown were going to get closed by the health inspectors because it was so grimy. And then that actually happened one day. The health inspector was like, shut this bullshit up, it's going to kill someone. So they closed it and they turned it to McDonald's. But that's fine because I go there regularly as a McDonald's anyway. It's like a dream came true. So yeah, the Tumbledown, much missed again.
And finally, if you could buy a meal deal right now, what would you get in the meal deal?
In the meal deal, my local pizza place does a large pizza with chicken strips, bottle of Coke, and cheesy garlic bread. But if you ask them nice, they'll swap out the garlic bread for fries instead, because otherwise that's too much bread, right? So big up to Pizza Time in Farnborough for helping me out with that. Yeah, the mega deal.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jamie, ever so much for talking to me today.
You're welcome.
And looking forward to the release of The Atheist on November 25th.